Hello, I'm playing today a game on ICC with a so-called standard temp control, and so this is a game with 15 minutes and 5-second increment. We're heading into this kind of variation of the English opening where I'm trying to play the Slav, he's trying to play the English. By not putting the pawn on d4, White gives himself some extra options. I'm definitely curious what happens if I just take on c4 now and try to maintain that pawn. There's quite a few options here. I could play e6, e5. I could take on c4. I could play knight to f6. Each move sort of has its own advantages. Let's try this now. This is not committing me with as far as development of this bishop goes. It is flexible. And flexibility can mean different things in different positions. I think here it's appropriate. So after the inclusion of these two moves, I increased protection over the d5 pawn, and White has decreased the pressure because he blocked his own bishop. So I think it should be safe for me to now play bishop to f5, something I am aiming to play in this line because I want to get my bishop out. So now if I'm allowed to play pawn to e6, well, which I'm not yet allowed to, I could, well, I'm still hoping to play pawn to e6 and just calmly defend everything. I think the line he played makes more sense with a knight on c3. Here, I mean, I even have moves. In the case he goes queen b3, which is of course the main idea, I can even play queen to c8, quietly defending. Well, there we go. So can I play it now? In the past I've usually played queen b6 in this line, and it's usually giving reasonable results. I can't really think of a reason to not do this here. What the heck, I usually play this, I'll just do it like this now. He's very eager to capture, which is interesting. And now I think I've had this position before, and every time before I went bishop to here. The purpose of this move is to cover up b5, so since I've already tested this many times, I have no reason to refuse here, and so I'll just go with the flow. Now e6, and I'm hoping to just finish development with something like possibly bishop to d6 and king to e7, or maybe even castle. It's not entirely safe for black though. I still have to be careful. Big question is whether I should be castling here. Ideally, of course, I would just bring my rooks to the c file as soon as possible, but in which particular way to do this is not entirely clear. The game is a little bit more boring than I would wish for, but and he's playing a little bit faster than I would wish for again. I'm tempted to go for something ambitious, such as bishop to c6, bishop to d6. I may be punished for this, but I'm gonna play this. Now when I think about it, the bishop isn't really doing very much on d4 or on d6. Maybe I should have put it simply on c5. On c5 it would of course be blocking the... Oh wow, did I just walk into this? Oh, this is very unpleasant. I completely forgot about this idea. That is not good. I forgot about his idea of playing e4, e5, so now I'm under this direct threat of pawn to e5. So I have two options to deal with this, I guess. Well, three options. I could capture and then play pawn to e5, which would completely give up the d5 square to him. I could also play takes and then knight to c6, in a way covering up the e5 square as well. Nothing is really entirely safe here, so... But I think first I would take... Takes with the pawn, so should I play e5 now, or should I just try to defend that square in some way? For example, with knight to c6. Plain and simple. I do want to develop my pieces, so it would be nice to play this move. Is there any immediate danger? No, I don't see it. Knight b5, queen b8, bishop b8. I might be able to hang on here. Another danger is that he can simply play bishop to e3 and ask me about that pawn. I don't think I would have the resources to sacrifice it. On the other hand, if he goes bishop to e3, this might just give me a tempo to play something like bishop to c5. So against this, my plan was to just go back. So maybe I'll just do that. And what do you have? Well, now you have bishop to e3. That is very unpleasant. On the other hand, now this knight is a little bit loose here. And I don't know for sure if I can take any advantage of that though. So if I could, it would be something along the lines of knight to e5, definitely. Knight to e5 and then transfer this knight to c4 and just... So with knight to e4 I'm gonna attack this knight and see what happens. This is my only hope probably. I could also try knight to b4 and hit this knight that way. Then I'll be hitting the a pawn, which I probably don't want to take. I really want to transfer my knight to e4. Sorry, to c4 more than anything. And for that purpose I could even try knight to a5, because there it would not be exchanged. It's a bit of a tough call. Knight e5, knight a5, knight b4. Even rook a5 is a move, but that doesn't seem like a very good one. The other thing is if I go knight to a5, he may just go pawn to a4. Does going to e5 give him extra options in terms of, well, being able to either exchange or not? I can also simply take on e4. I had not considered that. That seems a little too dangerous. I think intuitively I'm gonna go for this. It's a little scary that I haven't finished my development, but on the bright side, that king in the center might come in handy at some point. One downside of playing this is that now e5 is a bit out of my control. So if I don't come back on time with my pieces, e5 might still be a threat. I didn't realize you can also play knight to here, just retreating with that knight, covering up c4. I guess I can then reply with pawn to b5, silly as it is, and just keep walking with that pawn. That does seem a little bit silly. I do have a bit less time, but that might be acceptable. Well, it's not that much of a disadvantage, I guess. It's probably the only reason why it's acceptable. So, if he takes on b6, well, he can't. I think his most logical move is knight f to d4, defending the knight on b5, defending the pawn on e4. Oops, the only downside is that then I can go e5 and probably win a piece. Okay, so he went a4. I think that has good and bad things about it. So, if I, okay. Now back to calculating things. Oh, I really don't like this anymore. Because now, knight to b3. I can try knight to b3, and then he goes pawn to rook to a3. This might be the way to go, because with these kind of tricks, I'll basically be... He can't go to a2 because then bishop b5 just plain wins a piece. So he has to go rook to here, and then I can go knight to c5, defending the pawn and attacking his pawn on here. Interesting. My other option is knight to c4. That hits the pawn and the bishop. Then his obvious move is bishop to d4. Now I have b6 guarded, and I can take on e4. Crazy as it sounds. And my knights might begin to... No, but then I drop the pawn on there. So knight c4 is not ideal, therefore. Unless I can kick that knight, or that bishop rather, from d4. Yeah, so play becomes really tactical because I go knight c4, because bishop d4, I can go e5 suddenly. He can go bishop to d3. Sorry, he can go bishop to c3. I can then take on e4, and I'll be hitting him on c3, which is not the end of the world, but is good to have. Oh, this is getting really wild. The other option is to go knight to b3, and then after rook a2, after rook a3 is to go to c5, hitting both pawns. Seems a little bit calmer. Probably safer as well. I really feel like playing knight to c4 though. That just seems more aggressive. Well, let's see if my intuition is harming me here. Big question is, did I bite on a little bit more than I can chew here? So that is entirely possible. Now knight e5 is a move, I guess, that I had not quite seen. On the bright side, I'm somewhat up a pawn right now. Whether the pawn is worth anything is a different question. So he can play immediately knight to e5. This is simplifying, probably. Can also go rook e1. Then I must take on c3, it seems. Doesn't make sense to do anything else, really. Yeah, rook e1 is dangerous for him, because then I can try to grab the pawn with taking on c3 and playing f6. Yeah, if I could really stabilize things with f6, that would be nice, but I don't think it's anywhere near that. So my knights have kind of jumped out a little bit. My bishops are quite behind. It's definitely tricky. I definitely must watch out for all kinds of forks on c7 and whatnot. This might go bad if I somehow have to exchange that knight on e5, that bishop on e5, and then end up having no time to defend against this. Hopefully I can always throw in the capture on b5. So he took like this. That is interesting. It's very interesting. Oh yeah, yeah. Doesn't seem like I have a choice besides taking on e5. I mean, in a way maybe I do. Maybe I can just castle. That'd be very fun. And just let him take wherever he wants. The other option is certainly to take on b5 and just let it be that way. And the material balance is now restored because he recaptured my pawn. Is he threatening anything right now? Not really, he just regained material. I think either way I must be bringing my pieces into the game, so it seems like I must I must castle. This is what I'm coming to. It's very tempting just to take a piece on e5. I think I can also nearly force a draw here by various exchanges, which is maybe what I should do. Yeah, I think I should take a draw here because things are getting a little dangerous. I think if I can exchange all the pieces into the bishop endgame, this might be the best course of action, in fact. Uh-oh, I overlooked something. I overlooked the simple idea that if I take, I don't really have time to capture on b2 because there's a checkmate on the back rank. But that might be entirely fine because I also have an interesting move rook to a4 which I don't have time for really here. It's not clear how this works. Maybe I should just play for two bishops and castle here. Would that be appropriate at all? I think it would be. It may in fact be the best course of action because also in this position I have a shot like say castle, take on a4, take on b7, take on a4, and then I can take back the rook. It's unclear how good is this. Can I castle here right now? Can I castle? I'm hoping I should be able to do that. Because if I can't, it would defeat the purpose of this. It might be just a move order swap. The other idea to try is definitely just to let him take on b7, not give up my bishop, and simply play for the two bishops in this position with something like, well, rook b8 for one thing, and then just take on b2 and try to play for two bishops. This might be the best way, in fact. suddenly starting to have some faith in my position and in my two bishops, because they're not bad pieces. The other observation is that I might be able to win the pawn here. In, say, bishop to b7, rook takes a4, rook takes a4, bishop takes b5, and the rook is hanging, and b2 is hanging, and how does he defend both? I guess you can just go rook to b4. Yeah, that doesn't work. That would be a little bit too much. What else is going on here? So bishop to b7. Yeah, that of course happened. So do I play rook a4 or do I not? That is a big question, big question. Because rook b8 is a legitimate option. It keeps things on the board. So rook a. So if I don't play that, I mean, also bishop b5 is an option if I really want to exchange my good piece. So I believe after bishop b5 he's forced to take and will pretty much be in a drawn position. After rook a4. I think rook b8 is my best chance in just trying to win that pawn back on b2 and hope for the best. Because there isn't really much of a risk, it appears. It's just two bishops. Now I realize maybe rook a5 was good too. So he went away. Let's see, will I take? I don't like this move too much. I don't think it's a very good move. Rook e5 or bishop e5 or bishop f6. Just would restrict him a little bit more if I went to. Let's play safe. I think two bishops are pretty good here. I just don't have time. So what is my plan? What is my plan here? G5 maybe? Oh. Will he be trying to exchange things here? We'll see. Will he play bishop d5 basically? That's the question. No, he doesn't. He does not play bishop to d5. Do I want to exchange a pair of rooks here? I probably do. Yeah, I think I do want to exchange a pair of rooks. So let's play this out like that. I think I want to keep one rook on the board. And now I want to activate my rook. But do I have time to prevent him from playing something like this? What I don't want to be doing is being ground down to defending the b pawn. It would be fairly unpleasant, I guess. Time is a little running out. Do I have time to bring in the king into the game? Because that might be the best course of action, unless it gets into some danger, of course. And that really wouldn't stop him from coming to b8. Alternatively, should I try and exchange rooks? another idea is to simply transfer the bishop to c5. Maybe this is what I will do. Okay, so it's gonna be a long ride. Let's see. That's fine, I suppose. There's some interesting ideas if he goes, say, rook d5 now, trying to attack my bishop. I go here. Well, I might also put the bishop directly to h3. Yeah. It's not turning out that great. Oh, now he's threatening with pawn to a5. Well, it'd be kind of silly not to play this move. And how is he going to keep that pawn defended? Well, I guess that is not his concern. Unless I blundered something. Yep, could well be the case. So, should have had a bit more time than 10 seconds here.
Time warning.
Time warning is real handy. Didn't really have much of a choice, I guess. This might end as a draw. In fact, it would be surprising if this doesn't end as a draw. Well, I definitely overlooked his idea of defending. My only play now is that maybe his knight is a little bit too much on the edge of the board, and maybe I can somehow play against that. And to add to my unpleasantness, he's also potentially attacking me on f7. That is very unpleasant. It's quite unpleasant. Well, maybe I'm trying to escape now all of a sudden. It's truly unpleasant. It's a little bit unexpected. Now how do I defend against knight c7, I wonder? Oh, getting really unpleasant. One thing I can try is I can try to go for counterplay with bishop to h3 and try to get at him that way. That might be in fact better than and just give back that pawn. This might be an interesting idea, in fact. Let's try that. suddenly it's not very clear who's attacking and who's defending here, but I think I'm still weaker side, mostly because of how little time I have here. Yeah, that was a bit foolish to get myself into this time trouble. So he's deciding which way to capture on f7, I guess. Oh.
Check.
It's getting very drawish at this point, which is unfortunate because the game has kind of oscillated between two sides, and now it's just a little silly. So this isn't really going anywhere, clearly. In part I'm being a little silly, not really doing anything here, but on the other hand I also don't want to exchange things and end up in some position where I have to be
Check.
Slightly worse, right? That would also be undesirable in any case. The two bishops are very, very strong, but unfortunately I ran out of pawns on the board to play with, and because of that it's really turned out to be a non-show at this point. Is there any... I mean, he placed his pawns in a good way, so there's really nothing going on here in any case. Yeah. Can the bishops do anything in this position? It would be very unusual if they could. Where is he going now? Oh, he's going to d2, right? Well, it's not really coming out though. So that is definitely hoping to exchange. Okay, so this is a chance now. Because he trapped his knight. And that's good, and... Wait a second. Okay. So he has officially trapped his knight. And now he officially tied down his bishop to the defense of that knight. And is there anything I can do about this? So he's running to the rescue of that knight back on c2. And I can on d2, and I can't really do anything about it, can I? Well, I can try to come here as well. And see who gets trapped. This is pretty hopeless on all accounts, but my goal was really to do something like this. And I don't know if that's really gonna work. We'll see. And now the bishop also escaped. That is very unfortunate. Uh-oh. Am I running into trouble? Yes, I've run into big trouble. all my play is really against that knight. And if that fails, then I got nothing. I might be losing then quite, but I am losing quite badly then, in fact. One thing to keep in mind is now he can try to actually give up. He can actually try to give up that knight. That has not occurred to me at all. This is a very to the last soldier kind of battle, I guess. Really tricked me into thinking that I can get something out of that play. There's nothing, and all my pawns now are falling. It's got a really interesting choice now between... Well, there's really... like, knight f3 is really the only choice. I'm not sure what was the pondering all about.
Check.
Yes.
Check.
So now the hope is knight d4, and then... But really the hope is all gone, because now he's just running away. Oh, I really wonder if this will come down to some kind of endgame with... Now if he takes... I do have a strong hope of exchanging on g3 and taking on... and taking down the rest of his material, but I don't think he's gonna let me off the hook that easily. Yeah, he's got a much easier option at hand, I guess. And now what do I do? What do I do now? Something like this, maybe? The hope now is definitely to exchange on f3 and to try to build a fortress with a bishop against two side pawns in the endgame with bishops of opposite color. That is the best I can hope for, I suppose. He also has a bishop of their own color, so if I could actually exchange something, that would be quite promising, but he doesn't let me off that easily. That's not surprising. So where's my king gonna go now to chase down his pawns? Fun trick is that, say, if he does something like, well, if he goes bishop g6, I can take on g3 and play f4 and get that bishop and actually get something back. It's not entirely easy for him to make progress either, so... yeah, unfortunately I don't have time to think. What I intend to do is, if he... well, I guess he's just gonna push the h-pawn and that'll be the end of the story for me. Oh wow, it started very nicely, but now it's just coming to a good end. Really running out of time. that pawn is running really fast. Fast and furious. He's a bit low on time too, but that shouldn't really matter here because he doesn't really have very big decisions to make. What is this?
Check.
Just in case. What is this?
Check.
It's just the last desperate
Check.
ditched attempt. I don't know what this is doing really. Now this. That. So he did get a little jumpy, but maybe that's just me.
Check. Check.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Check.
This is just entirely hopeless. I thought I could put the bishop into some kind of blockading position, but I just failed utterly. This is not the kind of endgame with 2 pawns that I had in mind. Now play g6. Uh-oh. And now, what do I do now? Well, I don't really have a move. I can play this, or I can take on h6. And if king takes, and if pawn takes, well, pawn takes then entirely wins. So I should do this, and then just pawn to h6. Okay, well, that was a desperate struggle that really got me nowhere. Uh-oh, and I lost some points. Well, I hope you enjoyed my desperate 86 move play that really dragged on for a bit longer than it should have. And I should have agreed to a draw in many places, but I didn't, and I paid the price for that. There we go.